Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We're continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Peah. We're up to Perek Hey Mishnah Zayin, where we spoke about the mitzvah of Peah till now. We spoke about the mitzvah of Lekid. We're going to now start discussing the mitzvah of Shicha. Shicha, we know, is that when a farmer harvests his crop and he now puts these grains that he cut into small bundles, and he takes these bundles to the threshing floor. When he gets there and he realizes he left one or two bundles back in his field, less than 2 se'ah, we're going to see, he must leave it there now for the poor. The Torah says you cannot get it. Once you forget about it, you have to leave it there. Likewise, if a farmer is harvesting and he realizes when he finishes and he goes to the threshing floor, they forgot to cut one stalk is still standing. The Torah says you cannot go back and cut it. You must leave it there. Now the Mishnah is going to discuss when forgotten produce is not considered shicha. Ha'omer sheshichachuhu po'alim b'lo shichachu ba'al habayit. If a bundle was forgotten by the workers, but the field's owner did not forget about it, meaning the Rav explains that an owner hired workers for the harvesting of his field. The workers forgot a bundle of grain in the field when they were taking it to the threshing floor. The owner who was in the field with them realized that the bundle was there. It's not considered shicha, because the Torah says, the Rav explains that in order to be called shicha, the owner and the worker both have to forget. So the Mishnah says, if the bundle was forgotten by the workers, but the owner did not forget it, shichacho ba'al habayit v'lo shichacho po'alim, or if the owner forgot a bundle but the workers did not forget it, amdu aniyim b'fanav, or poor people stood in front of the bundle and hid it, or shechipu b'kash, or they covered it with straw to block it from the view of the owner and the workers and cause it to be left behind. In any of these cases, the bundle that was left is not considered shicha, and the poor may not take it, because again, the Rav explains, a bundle is shicha only if both the owner and the worker forget it, and only if it was left behind because of forgetfulness, not because it was hidden or because it was overlooked, in the case where the anim covered it with a straw or they stood in front of it. And the Rab explains that when we said the workers forgot but the owner didn't, it's not shicha. That's only if the owner is still in his field when he knows that its bundle is still there. If the workers forgot and the owner is somewhere else and he sees, let's say through whatever methods he knows that the bundle is still there, they forgot about it, it's considered forgotten because the owner has to be on the field. So again, the rule is, in order to be considered shicha, it has to be produce that was overlooked both by the owner and the worker. Also has to be overlooked because it has to be forgotten. It has to be forgotten. Any produce that is forgotten both by the owner and by the worker, and also any produce that is only forgotten, not overlooked because somebody was hiding it or somebody was covering it. That is the Em Rabotai Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet's going to discuss now the several stages of harvesting. Now we know that the farmers, they would cut produce, bundle it, and pile many bundles in small heaps of different forms and shapes and sizes. They would carry these bundles into a larger pile, and then on the threshing floor, the Mishnah is going to explain now different cases when shicha applies and when it doesn't. If someone is collecting bundles of produce into hat-shaped heaps, kova is the language of hat, they made it into a hat-shaped pile, which the Rav explains, it sits above the ground like a hat on a head. Chumsaot, or hidden heaps hidden in a ditch. Lecharara, or pancake-shaped heaps, which the Rav explains, flat, round heaps resembling pancakes. Marim, or just into small bundles. You carry the grain into small bundles, but later you're going to put them into bigger bundles and put them into the threshing floor. 3-step process. We'll harvest, make a bundle, put that in the middle, and then bring that to the threshing floor. And no shicha, in these cases, there's no shicha. If you forget, while you're transporting, you realize you forgot a bundle, there's no shicha. Why? Because these bundles are not being gathered for the final time. When I'm making these small piles, this is not the final time. The final time is going to be after these small piles, when I transfer them to the threshing floor, which is the actual final pile. And the Torah says we know that it's only considered shicha if in the final transfer, the final move, when you take it, then you forgot. Right? So in this case, when the bundles are not being gathered for the final time, the heaps are only temporary, the bundles are still going to be brought to another pile. The Mishnah says it's not considered shicha. Memenu lagoren, however, when you take from these middle pile to the threshing floor, now you have shicha, yesho shicha, in this case you have, because now it's the final method. So let's just explain. You have point A, point B, point C. Point A is when you make these small pancake-shaped pile, hat-shaped pile, you take that to point B, where you mount everything up. Whatever you forgot when going from A to B is not shicha. You could take it because B is not the final place. When you transfer everything from B to C, which is the threshing floor, whatever you forget in B is considered shicha because C is the final resting place, the final place where you're going to process it. And whatever you forget when you're going to the final place is subject to shicha. The Mishnah continues, if someone is gathering bundles of produce into a large pile and he wants to thresh it there on the spot. So we have point A to point B. You harvest, take straight, make a big mountain, and pile right away. Yesh shicha. Whatever you forget when going from A to B is subject to shicha. Why? Because this point B, since you want to thresh right there, it's the final stage in the process of gathering the grain, and therefore it's subject to shicha. If, however, you change your mind now and you want to take everything from point B to point C, mimenu lagoren, right? Hamamer lagadish, if you gather in bundles, yesho shicha, the shicha, mimenu lagoren, but if you take from that pile to the threshing floor, en lo shicha. So whatever you took from A to B was subject to shicha. Now I change my mind, I want to go from B to C. Whatever you forget when you're going to C is not shicha. Why? Because since in this case the law of shicha already applied from A to B, it cannot apply again later. I already had shicha, I already had my mitzvah. When I was going from A to B and B was my final resting place, my final place where I was going to process, whatever I forgot from A to B is considered shicha. But from B, when I change my mind, I want to go to C now there's no more shicha already. I already had my application of shicha. So it does not apply later even if you end up moving it again. The Mishnah concludes Zaklal, this is the rule as a summary. Anyone who gathers bundles to pile them in a place that is the final stage of processing the grain, so you have from A to B, B is the final place, yeshu shicha, whatever you forget when you brought everything to B, you must leave. Mimenu lagoren, but if you change your mind now and you want to go from B to C, en lo shicha, shicha doesn't apply because you already were subject to shicha from A to B. Anyone who's gathering bundles to a pile where it's not the final stage, so we had the three cases from A to B. You just make big mountain and then B to C. Whatever you forget when bringing to B, en lo shicha, mimenu lagoren. But when you bring from B to C, yesh lo shicha. The rule is, Rabotai, that final carrying, when you bring it to being threshed or production, the rest of the way you process the field, only then it'll be subject to shicha. Any other time you bring it into piles, it won't be. So again, A to B, if B is the final place, you have shicha. But if you want to go now to C, there's no shicha. And in a case where you want A to B to C, A to B, no shicha. B to C, you have shicha. That is the end of today's Mishna Yomi, Rabotai. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.